Welcome to a special briefing brought to you by the American Society of University of Haifa. I'm happy to be here with Professor Rear Admiral Shaul Chorev, who is the head of the University of Haifa's Maritime Policy and Strategy Research Center and director of the Esri Center for Iran and Persian Gulf Studies. He was also the former head of Israel Atomic Energy Commission, responsible for Israel's activities in the nuclear field, and former deputy chief of naval operations. To set the stage for this conversation, on January 3rd, U.S. forces conducted an airstrike in Baghdad that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, who was Iran's most powerful security and intelligence commander. For years, he has been the mastermind of Iranian foreign military operations, responsible for spreading its influence throughout the Middle East. Soleimani's death has sparked outrage in Iran, with Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei calling for forceful revenge for the general's killing. And then on January 7th, in retaliation, Iran launched a ballistic missile attack on 2 Iraqi bases housing U.S. troops. So, Professor, so much has happened these past 2 weeks in the geopolitical arena. Soleimani's assassination affect the environment in the Middle East?
So Israel feels that the situation become complicated here in the Middle East, that Israel will have to do the work by itself. That it might tackle some kind of missile attack or other scenarios that it might happen from Iran. So for Israel, the situation, I don't think that after the assassination of Soleimani, but the situation from the time that Obama decided to evacuate the Middle East to Trump, that from other initiate continues this policy, is a little bit complicated and let's say is worse than it was in the past.
Mm-hmm. It kind of brings me to the next question. You mentioned the Iran nuclear deal, and you know it seems that Iran is using the killing of Soleimani as a justification to fully withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. Do you see that eventually happening? And what do you feel like is the possibility Iran will acquire military nuclear capability in the near future?
You're right. First, Iran is trying to do some kind of brinkmanship. And as Iran is doing it while trying to block the Strait of Hormuz and attack some tankers, I think that it's playing also with the nuclear deal. Here, the situation is that Iran might have, quote, quote, some kind of justification, because what Iran is mentioning, we signed this agreement. The signatory give us some kind of promise that all the sanctions will be lifted, and the U.S. unilaterally withdraw from this agreement. So now they are trying to use it for their benefit. They are not saying that they are heading for the bomb. So they are taking some kind of action, I think small actions, like saying we were limited by the 300 kilo of uranium, 3.6%. Now it is not a limit. We are limited by the number of centrifuges, it's not a limit. But try to listen also to what Iran is mentioning. They are mentioning that with the IAEA, they are not, they are maintaining their communication with the IAEA, and they will invite IAEA to inspect their facilities. So at the same time, they are not saying we are heading now for the bomb. So it will take time. I think that they know what is their limits and how to act it in the brinkmanship situation. And I think that now it's the time for the intelligence community, because Iran, they are well known from their covert program. And maybe we are looking at the wrong place that they are doing it. And I think that we have to complement it by intelligence facilities and intelligence that will see that they are not going to some covert place and doing the enrichment that will allow them to go to 20%, and from 20% to go to a device or to the free materials that will be sufficient for a device. It is a short vein.
Right, right. How do you see other players, other global international, players like Russia, like China, even the European Union, Turkey? Do you feel like they're going to some way use this opportunity to change the landscape of the Middle East for their own benefit?
For sure, for sure. First of all, I think that China is the China is the rival of the US currently, the real rival of the US, the real rival to the hegemony of the US. And for China, it's a very good opportunity that they are not on the hook. When they are on the hook to, when we are speaking about all the commerce and the globalization and what they have to do with the IR and all such things, now the US don't have the attention to look at it, to put on them some other sanctions. So I think that for China, it's a good situation that they are not pay sufficient attention from the US. More to say, China invested a lot of money in Iran infrastructure because they need the oil, they might need in the future the gas, and for this reason, they know that if the US will put sanctions and they will have to go from through the monetary system, they would try to have an independent route that they can go through it. So China is using the situation for their purpose. For Russia, I think that, let's say first that if there will be a war between Iran and the United States, it will not be good for Russia in the Middle East. But if there is an escalation and the oil price will come up for Russia, it's a good thing because you know that Russia economy is dependent on the oil price. Their economic situation in Russia is not good because the oil price and their economy and the sanction that they have. So for Russia, if this situation will continue, not coming to a full war, but that there will be some kind of action between the US and Iran, and the situation will continue to be unstable, it will provide them higher price of their economy. For Turkey, it allowed them also to let's say to continue the ambitions of Erdogan of the going back to other Ottoman Empire, to go to the Persian Gulf, to have some kind of exclusive economic zone and some kind of agreement with Libya in the Mediterranean that was condemned by Israel and Greece and Cyprus, but nobody has an attention to Turkey, what is doing there, and Turkey is in NATO. So that's, and India, I think that India, which is in some kind of alliance with the US, it's a bad situation because India and some other Asian country, they need the US in the India-China region, Pacific region. So for India, it's not a good sign because they need the US activity even to Asia to react against China, which is their rival. So I try to mention most of the players here and how they win or how they gain or what the situation or influence them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Going just back to Israel's security for a minute, do you see this? Do you see this killing changing anything? I know you mentioned a little bit about investing even more in intelligence and talking about kind of combating Iran getting that nuclear deal. But do you see anything in the short term that Israel is going to change in terms of their strategy in the global political arena because of this?
Let's say that we have some experience in the Middle East with assassination or decapitation or killing of some terrorist heads or like this. But I think that our experience is that you will not get a better one. It will take terrorist organization like the Al-Quds or like the Iran Revolutionary Guard. It will take them some times, and a new guy will come into the play, and he might be playing it worse than his predecessor. So for Israel, I think that the only thing is that it's a sign that the US try to have a better deterrence in the region. But let's see what will be the following step of such assassination. And if it will be an act and then it will not be complemented by other things, I think that the situation of Israel will not be good.
And just and kind of following up on that, the United States, what does this change in the short term or even the sort of the near future for the United States involvement in the Middle East? Do you think they're going to, invest even more, send more troops to the region, or do you think they're going to kind of back away a little bit?
I think that what we are facing now, that you have sending more troops to the Middle East for the intermediate time. It will not be a long term because I think that President Obama, as President Trump, they mentioned that they wouldn't like to have an involvement in the Middle East, whether it's the Kurds, whether it's Iraq. And I think that the trauma after Iraq, that in 2003, the US tried to change it, to modify it to a democracy. We have now in the Middle East a lot of failed states, and Iraq is a failed state. So what we might see is that the US will not change its strategy. What we might see is that Iran is trying through two routes. One, through Syria, to connect Baghdad to Damascus. And if I'm speaking from the maritime point of view, the Iranian Navy, we might see it anchoring in Syrian ports in the Mediterranean. And the second one is the southwest route going to Yemen, to the Houthis. Speaking about the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which through it go 1/3 of Israel export and import, it might affect also Israel merchandise through the Bab el-Mandeb.
Right.
So that's might be the outcome of the situation that the US will continue to evacuate the Middle East.
Interesting. Okay, that's actually all of my questions. Thank you for everyone on the call for submitting.
Only one point. When we are speaking about Soleimani, I should mention that Soleimani influence in the maritime arena was also for us. I'm a Navy guy. And I'm trying to see what events happen in the maritime domain. And Soleimani, he worked on the organization and management, transport of operations and transfer of weapons from Iran on merchant ships on the same elements supported by Iran. And the second thing is establishing naval organization in the same establishment that stand out among them in Hezbollah and other organizations. As a Navy guide, I remember 2006, Second Lebanon War, that one of the corvette of the Israeli Navy was hit by a missile launched by Hezbollah. But who provided the missile to Hezbollah, trained them, it was Al-Quds and it was Soleimani. And we have here a list of vessels: 2001, Karin A, 2009, MV Franco, 2011, 2014, that it was a miracle that the intelligence with the Israeli Navy succeeded to stop them from providing ammunition, missiles, and all sorts of weapons to Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations in the Middle East. So speaking under the head of the Haifa Center from Policy and Strategy, Maritime Policy and Strategy, I think that we should not overestimate the Soleimani activity in this domain, and it's good that he is not with us.
Yeah. Thank you. So now we're going to open it up to participant questions that have come in, and we're honored to have you as the former head of the Israel Atomic Energy Commission, certainly relevant when we're speaking about Iran. Absolutely. And one question we had was, if Israel's policy is to preemptively strike Iranian nuclear facilities before it gets a nuclear bomb, and this is something that both Benjamin Netanyahu and Benny Gantz have confirmed, should that action be before Iran has enriched enough uranium to 90% weapons grade, or should that be before it can deliver a nuclear weapon, which is obviously at a later point, and why?
Let's try to evaluate what you need for a nuclear weapon. You need the delivery system, and I think that it exists because one part of the United Nations Security Council is against Iran a ballistic missile. So basically, they have the delivery system. So we have to look, and they have the knowledge how to develop a nuclear weapon because we have some elements about it. So the only path to a nuclear weapon is the materials. And when they are coming over 20%, there are signs that they are real to the ambition to have a nuclear weapon. I don't think that this is the current situation. And the real question is, where do you have to draw the red lines? I think that our Prime Minister, when he speak to the United Nations Assembly, he tried to draw this line. And there was some kind of difference between the red line of Israel and the US. I think that it might be a time that we have to discuss it with our friends. I'm encouraged to what President Trump mentioned in the beginning of his speech yesterday, that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon.
Before he even addressed the rest of this speech, that's the first thing he said.
Yes, and it was very positive for the people of Israel. So I don't think that we are in a situation that Israel will have to consult the US and to go and strike the facilities. But if the situation will continue and Iran will have the enriched uranium in the percentage that will allow them to proceed, I think that Israel and the US will have to consult and to see what is the exact time to stop it. In this respect, I think that the P5+1 agreement give us some, let's say, a lead time that we can see. In my opinion, this was not a good agreement or a good deal, but it was sufficient to give us about a year or something like that we will continue to see whether they progress or not. So I think that what General Petraeus mentioned yesterday, it should be the case. Deterrence, yes. Try to see how you complement it. Have an intelligence that will tell you what is the situation with their nuclear program and try to see where they are going over the red line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. The next question that comes in is, how does Israel plan to use the Mediterranean Sea and the Indian Ocean, as well as their other surrounding waters, in its defense planning?
First of all, I think that, Israel is a very small country. I serve in the Sinai as a squadron commander of missile boat, and we used to sail to the Bab el-Mandeb. But we evacuated Sinai Peninsula, and Israel is a very small country. And when you are speaking today about strategic depths, the only strategic depths that Israel has is in the Mediterranean. So we have to use these strategic depths as we are speaking about strategic depths. The second one is that Israel was not an independent state concerning, let's say, facilities, energy facilities. Currently, we have energy facilities within our exclusive economic zone, more than we need. Mm-hmm. So speaking about strategy, first, we are independent of importing oil from outside, but we have to protect all these facilities because when we are speaking about an escalation of conflict with Hezbollah, they know exactly where are the production facilities, and we have to protect it. The third one, and I think that we have to think about it because it's a little bit complicated, when we are speaking about going or that 1/3 of Israel export and import is going through Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and the situation there is not stable, I think that Israel should work with its allies, as our Prime Minister mentioned, to see how we can protect our merchant boat going through this strait. So basically, I think that the importance of the maritime domain in the Israel security, not only Israel defense, but Israel security is going and increasing very, very fast. Another element, you know that even though now it's days that we have a lot of rain and the Lake of the Galilee is coming up with about half a meter, which is a good news, but most of our drinking water is coming through desalination facilities in the Mediterranean. So I am trying only to mention some elements that is explaining what is the importance of our maritime domain, Israeli maritime domains, to its security.
Right, absolutely. Next question we have in is, how likely is Iran to strike Israel as a proxy or an ally of the United States currently?
Look, I think that they are doing it day to day because they have proxies. And when Hezbollah is shooting to Israel, or 2006, or when they are threatening Israel that when it will come to a conflict, they have thousands of rockets and missiles, and they aim to do it to the center of Israel, to the urban areas. That's Iran after it. I think that what is happening in the Golan Heights, that in the previous year, they shoot missiles that we know that after these missiles, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, they gave the order to do it. So we don't need Iran to be in Tehran. We have Iran now in Syria. And what is our concern is currently that when the US evacuate Iraq, the axis from Baghdad to Damascus and to the Golan Heights will be fully opened, and they will transport logistic and everything, and they can hit Israel with no direct confrontation between Iran and Israel.
Next question comes in. It's well understood today that President Ronald Reagan and CIA Director William Casey decided to basically exploit the fragile economy of the USSR to topple the government of the Soviet Union and the Iron Curtain. Do you think that Iran and its economy, with the sanctions that have been imposed in recent years, is vulnerable, that its leadership could similarly be toppled within the next few years? Do you see that as a possibility?
There is a possibility. I think that sanctions are biting. Sanctions are hurting Iran. I think that the citizens of Iran and the last demonstration that they had and the number of the people that were killed, they are very sensitive to what is happening. And they are not willing to pay for the, let's say, Iranian Revolutionary Guard doing it in other countries, and not to go down with their level of life. So sanctions are biting. But when you're putting sanctions and you have other countries, not countries, but all the signatory to the P5+1 coming with you, then you have a pressure on Iran. When you're going out, withdrawing from this agreement, it allows the European to find alternative way to deal with Iran. It allows China to invest through circuitous ways in Iran economy. It will allow Russia to do some kind of, let's say, other things that will harm these sanctions. So to be more specific, yes, I think that sanction is a tool against Iran. But I join what General Petraeus is saying. Now you have to have some kind of policy, to have some kind of coalition, to have, as it was done. I don't think that the Obama P+5 agreement is, let's say, absolutely a good agreement, but it has some kind of a tool to sanction. Yes, continue, but try to recruit to the sanctions all the rest of the countries that signed this.
Yeah, great. I'm sure we could talk for another couple hours about the geopolitical situation, particularly over the last week, and how it's impacted Israel, the United States, and the world. That's all the allotted time we have, actually, for now. Professor, I thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a breath of knowledge for myself, and hope everybody that was joining the call as well. Thank you, everybody joining the call, and
I would like to thank Carol that gave me the opportunity. Usually we are giving the students this kind of speech, and I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to speak to the people that are supporting the University of Haifa and to try to give them the sense of what I'm thinking as a professor and let's say veteran of the Israeli Navy.
Well, thank you very much. It was fascinating. We had over 90, 100 people on the call today, so certainly is a demand, so we can create a second, third job for you. If anyone has any questions or needs more information, they can follow us with us directly on the from Facebook or our website. And I know there's been some press on the call. We'll send them right off to you, Jake. But thank you all very much, and we look forward to being back in touch soon. So thanks. Take care now.